With Resident Evil 9 on the way, many people are wondering who or what could be the next enemy. We've all had our personal favorites and whatnot, but one thing is certain in my opinion. If this game does give off some sort of continuation to RE Village in terms of the Munomycete or anything in relation to 7 as well, we are overlooking one thing amidst all of this. Or maybe some of us, and that is the crime syndicate known as the Connections. If you played RE7 or 8, you obviously have heard of that name before, but never really knew much about them because they always worked in the shadows. In today's video, I will be going through most of the history of the Syndicate, and also theorizing if they will be involved in Resident Evil 9, or who was behind the scenes pulling the strings for them. But you're probably wondering, how did they become what they are today? This is where we go into our first person that is affiliated with the Connections. He founded them as well, that being Brandon Bailey. Bailey is a shrewd man and was once the right-hand man of Oswald E. Spencer, CEO and president of the Umbrella Corporation, as we all know. Bailey and Spencer became estranged due to differing visions, and Bailey used the connections he made working as the director of the Umbrella Africa Research Center to branch off and found the crime syndicate. The organization's main goal appears to simply be commercial gain. Brandon was also the protege to Dr. James Marcus, which once he knew about his assassination, he fell into a deep depression, and his facility in Africa came to a close shortly afterwards. In his preparations to leave, Bailey resisted the urge to simply go home and retire, and got in contact with any friends he had left. His efforts were successful and he became the leader of the Connections, which is an organization based in Munich, and working against Umbrella's dominance in the bioweapons industry. No longer caring for his fellow founders' eugenics views, Bailey's leadership saw the formation instead of a crime syndicate producing bioweapons to be sold to other criminal enterprises. How long this career lasted, however, is presently unknown. Spencer himself made plans to execute the entire African lab team to keep progenitor a secret, and Albert Wesker himself conducted a world search sometime prior to 2006. The BSAA, in their own investigation of the group, were unable to confirm Bailey's death, and as of late 2017, considered his survival a possibility. Now obviously Brandon Bailey would be an extremely old man at this time if he is confirmed to be alive. And also if he is, Resident Evil 5's lore will hold more weight, especially if he has something to do with the next mainline game. Even though in one of the files in RE5 says Bailey is confirmed to be dead, it's a mystery that is currently unanswered. In 2009 we wouldn't have thought much of it, but now in 2025, it's more questions than anything else revolving around Bailey. Now let's get into the other members, more specifically the people who were involved bringing Evelyn onto the Annabelle ship from Munich. This is where the Connections made their biggest move, and was also the beginning downfall of the BSAA. Miranda was born sometime in the late 19th century in a mountainous village in Eastern Europe. In 1909, she gave birth to her first and only child, Eva. In 1919, the Spanish flu made its way to the village and devastated its population. Eva was one of the casualties and died at 10 years old. Driven to despair, Miranda ventured into a nearby cave where she intended to take her own life. However, before she could do that, she came across a massive ancient fungal supercolony, which she dubbed the Mold. Miranda touched a portion of the large mass and in the process saw the memories of hundreds if not thousands of people who had been consumed by the fungus over the centuries. Among those was Eva herself, whose body had been assimilated almost immediately after her burial. Believing she could use the mold to bring her lost daughter back to life, Miranda came to revere this substance as the Black God. In 2000, Miranda was approached by the crime syndicate The Connections, who had been made aware of her research and wished to collaborate with her. Miranda provided them with a sample of the mold and an embryonic clone of Eva. The Connections, in league with HCF, were working on a human BOW project that could brainwash enemy combatants, and believed the mold could assist in the process. With the embryo, they were able to produce a number of prototypes, with Miranda herself overseeing the development of Evelyn, the first of their E-type, created at some point before 2014. Miranda met Evelyn in person along with her assigned handlers, Mia Winters and Alan Droney, Mia joining the Connections in 2010. When the Connections facility housing Evelyn was discovered during a BSA investigation in October 2014, Evelyn was transported across the ocean on a tanker which then crashed off the coast of Louisiana, resulting in the Dulvey incident. Alan was killed by Evelyn, and Mia became the only survivor. However, when taken in by the Baker residents, this was when everything took a dark turn. Evelyn, who had the ability to produce a mold substance and control people she came into physical contact with, managed to take control of the Baker family, Lucas included, grooming them and Mia to become her ideal family, along with his father Jack and mother Marguerite. Lucas gained regenerative abilities. However, Lucas was met by agents working for the Connections, who provided him with the serum that stopped Evelyn from controlling him. In exchange, Lucas spied on his family for them, whilst managing to fool Evelyn into thinking he was still under her control. During his time in possession, Lucas also began building elaborate puzzles with the family's old barn. He was also given the role of lead researcher by the Connections. However, this wasn't the best decision to make whatsoever because of how much of a loose cannon Lucas was. At an undisclosed point in time, Lucas betrayed the Connection scientists working with him, feeding them all to the Molded before covering the incident up as an accident. With Blue Umbrella in hot pursuit and a third party in need of the E-Series data, Lucas commenced a final effort to complete his transactions and cut ties with his former business partners. But on one final stand to send the data to an anonymous buyer, Chris Redfield killed him and was able to stop the data from transferring over. 2 confirmed members were alive afterwards: Miranda, who had her own goals of reviving her daughter, and Mia Winters, who later on gave birth to her daughter Rose. Once Miranda found out about this, she was determined to kidnap Rose and make her become the perfect vessel for Eva to get her revived. When Mia and Ethan were saved, she cooperated with the BSAA and spilled everything she knew about the Connections to keep that side of her life a secret from her husband. However, there was another one that she was keeping, which made her feel worse, and was afraid of losing her family if Ethan eventually found out. On February 2nd, 2021, they celebrated Rose's half-birthday, and 4 days later, when Ethan accidentally brings up the incident again, they had a fight partially because of the years of her carrying on the secret. Shortly after this, Mia was kidnapped and subjected to multiple experiments by her former colleague Miranda. She then shapeshifted into Mia to infiltrate their home in pursuit of kidnapping Rose. Chris found out and proceeded to hunt down Miranda. However, she still succeeded in the kidnapping. Mia was rescued by Chris, but she wanted to know the whereabouts of Ethan and Rose. Chris said Ethan was dead and Rose can be saved. Then Ethan's secret was revealed. He died at the hands of Jack and Dolby, and the only thing keeping him alive was the Mold. Rose was saved by Ethan but decided to sacrifice himself to end things once and for all. Mia wasn't able to say goodbye or I love you to Ethan. Unfortunately, the last time they ever saw each other was during that argument. But it's a good thing when Rose, when grown up, finally had the conversation with her father in the DLC. Even with all members dead except for Mia, who has escaped that life, the mystery of the Connections itself is still at large. Are there other members working in the shadows? Is Brandon Bailey still alive to this day? All of these things we may not know until Resident Evil 9. But if there is one thing I want, is this organization to finally be more fleshed out, that being on screen. It also reveal who is really behind everything. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we get those answers. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like on it to help it reach the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the near future. And as always, I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.